Hi, I'm a former investment banker, and today we are peeling back the layers and going behind the scenes of a typical working day in an investment bank in London. I use mornings to get a head start by replying to emails first thing, after which I'll do some exercise and have an ice cold shower. I found this really anchored me for the day and gave me a sense of accomplishment first thing in the morning. After a quick coffee, I start my 1 hour commute from where I live in London to St Paul's, which is in the heart of the city. If you're from London, you will know the commute is the worst part of working in the city, hands down, especially in the summer. However, I do try to use this time constructively to reflect on what I wanted to achieve for the week and how I was going to get there. Investment banking is shrouded in mystery, with the public mostly confused about what this industry does and how it contributes to the broader economy. So before I tell you about the rest of my day, I really wanted to dispel any misconceptions that there are about investment banking and clarify for you exactly what this sector does. Firstly, it's not just one thing. It's an umbrella term used to describe a broad spectrum of strategic banking services offered exclusively to professional and institutional clients. The purpose of an investment bank is to provide advice and structure creative funding solutions that assist businesses in achieving their strategic goals and really help them navigate through their financial challenges. Whether it's providing entry to wholesale funding markets to pay for an acquisition, or tailoring derivative products that help safeguard their clients against future volatility in interest rates, pricing of commodities, and foreign exchange. The presence of a healthy banking system is imperative for economic prosperity. Without it, growth and innovation would stagnate and businesses would no longer be able to service the evolving needs of their customer base and eventually collapse. I'd get to my desk shortly after 8 and check my calendar for the day, which would typically include a blend of client and colleague meetings, and then focus on my priorities for that day. It's worth mentioning that I would also have several coffee catch-ups throughout the week, which was a great opportunity to expand my network inside and outside the bank. At 9 a.m, we go through our pipeline of deals for the MD, focusing on the deal size, our level of participation, funding mechanics, income projections, and importantly, cross-sell opportunities. The graduate trainees would also be required to prepare presentations and really be encouraged to take an active role in supporting the team on new and existing deals. The transactions you work on as an investment banker is really driven by the type of funding the company requires, which is really largely dependent on what it wants to achieve. If a company wants to boost its earnings and increase its market share quickly, it would likely achieve this through acquisition of one of its competitors by raising capital through the debt capital markets, or DCM for short. This is where the company would go to borrow the money through corporate lending products such as syndicated loan facilities or bond issuances. In another scenario, a company may want to invest in its operations or R&D and really don't want to be beholden to the restrictive financial controls which we see often in corporate loans and bonds. In this case, they would need to raise capital by selling ownership stakes in the form of shares to investors. This is typically done through an initial public offering, or IPO, in which a company makes its shares available for purchase on the stock market for the very first time. Investment banks are there to really offer funding solutions, risk management, and advisory services to allow businesses to realize their strategic goals from really early into their life cycle all the way through to when the company is ready to be publicly funded. My role was focused on working closely with management teams of companies to help them raise capital through syndicated and bilateral loans, bonds, and asset-backed lending solutions known as securitization. This would commonly be for the purpose of acquisition or investing into modernizing equipment and really increasing capacity of their operations, known as capital expenditure. The debt facilities we provided would directly support our clients' growth in their industry and really therefore have a positive knock-on effect on the economy. Essentially, my goal was to create bespoke funding solutions so our clients could achieve their strategic goals and mitigate the risk of any financial challenges that they may face in a constantly evolving marketplace. It was important to work independently but also as a team when the deal flow required, where working on multiple deals it was necessary to work with an analyst or graduate trainee. We operated a 4-person hierarchical structure, which is common in the front office. At its foundation sits an analyst or graduate trainee. Their main job is working on live deals, monitoring market movements and trends, and analysing client financials and presenting their work to the associates or managers who could then use it for pitch books for clients or in credit proposals for consideration by our risk team. Above them is an associate who would look to feedback on any adjustments and corrections the analysts could make. This could simply be correcting spelling mistakes or even presenting data in a more graphical fashion, or that they need to examine the client's financials in more depth. Above the associate sits the VP and director who work closely together to prepare the final transaction documents that would be submitted to the managing director for final sign-off. I would need to balance my core responsibility of generating income for the bank with compliance duties such as CPD and KYC. This is in addition to preparing the annual renewal of facilities that ensure we earn annuity income from our client relationships year on year. I would usually find time to do this after any morning meetings. The best thing about working in investment banking was definitely the high earning potential, and combined with the diverse nature of transactions we worked on, made each day exciting and unpredictable. You need a high attention to detail, but also remain fluid to market movements and the sudden acceleration of client timescales, which is common in acquisitions. Furthermore, knowing your work would have a direct impact to the future success of companies who were large enough to make a significant impact on the economy was also a major attraction for me. I would usually have lunch at my desk unless I was meeting another colleague or client, which is usually a few times a week. Following lunch at around 2 p.m, we would have a transaction call where coverage, product and risk would come together to discuss progress and any concerns that they may have. Credit, focus on measuring repayment risk. Legal, an in-house team of corporate lawyers would assess the strength of the language used in the loan documentation, while product and coverage agree the funding structure and negotiate pricing with the client. The coverage team would also assess how best to serve the client with ancillary products such as interest rate swaps, cash management and advisory services. Investment banking is diverse, with departments often working together to drive profitability with an agreed risk appetite. If you feel investment banking is for you, it's very likely that there is an area that will align to your skills and knowledge. The hours between 3 and 5 are generally filled with independent work and meetings with the client regarding pricing, financial covenants and the repayment structure of the transaction. It's very common to work beyond your contractual hours in this industry, which can be anywhere from 10 hours a day to all the way through the night to meet the timescale set by the client. Ultimately though, the division you work in and how senior you are will really dictate the hours that you work. If you work in sales and trading, you will be in the office early to prepare for when financial markets open and finish late preparing for any prospective deals the next day. In contrast, if you work in support functions, it's really fair to say that it's more relaxed and closer to a 9 to 5, but because of this, remuneration is much lower. In my role, there was a culture of working long hours, and although this was necessary a lot of the time, you could fall into the trap of staying late just so you're not seen going home early. Additionally, I would answer anything urgent on my days off and work from home on weekends and evenings to ensure my workload remains controllable. I will look to wrap up between 6 and 7 and look forward to unwinding from the day and really keeping my fingers crossed that nothing would come in overnight. If you don't drink coffee, I recommend that you start. There is a huge coffee culture in the city, and this is more so ever present at the start of your career as you seek to build out your network and start creating a reputation as someone others would like to work with. Building your personal brand will be key to your progression and the opportunities you will be offered in the future. At 6 p.m, there's usually no more meetings for the day, and I use this time to catch up with emails and spend some time with the associate on our priorities for the following day. At around 7 p.m, I finish my day as an investment banker, and a few times a week I would squeeze in a few drinks or dinner with colleagues and friends, another great way to expand your network and really strengthen your relationships with the team. If you've enjoyed this video and found it insightful, I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like and subscribe button. Additionally, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like me to cover in future videos, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Until next time, take care.